And a very welcome to Liam T. Jarrett's frickin' show. The Wake movement moving into Stop the PSYOP. These are a few of the names that we use. Throughout the whole day, I'm always thinking about new names, things that will catch to help express the mission, stop the PSYOP. Something I'm going with. And what is the PSYOP? In religion, the Abrahamic matrix that we're breaking out of. Religion has a big sway on politics, government. Now, we don't go to an empty, nihilistic, fatalistic, materialistic worldview necessarily. Rather, we look to all the world's religious, spiritual, mystical traditions, and we can syncretize them. Say, some of these things are reasonable, rational, helpful, practical. Some of these things were PSYOPs. Got us worshiping one God above others. That is not really monotheism. Rather, it is, what's it called when you take your tribal god and you put that up as, it starts with the H. There's a name for it. PSYOP. Interesting enough. What is it? It's a psychological operation. Usually we associate that with the military operations, such as the army or other branches of the military. And it would be usually to demoralize your enemy, to get them to surrender peacefully, I guess, to do your will. The most famous one was a psychological operation that involved manipulating people's, using their religious beliefs to manipulate them. It was called the Wandering Souls. And what they did is they played music of people saying, "Where am I? I'm lost," and like moans and screams, because the belief of the Orient is that if people their loved ones don't receive a proper burial, that they go around in the other world lost. Interesting to reflect upon that. But so that's, yeah, to demoralize them. We, the West, and much of the East, has been psychologically operated on through the Abrahamic shoot-off religions of Christianity and Islam. I know that's tough. They got the Western world to worship the God of the Hebrew people, the Israelites, Yahweh, Jehovah, who chose them. Obviously, they wrote the thing. It's their story they took for themselves, which was an amalgamation of many other Babylonian, Egyptian, Eastern mythologies. And they made themselves the main character, which is understandable. But then they refashioned it, taking on other pagan elements, foreign, so that it would be acceptable to those foreign people more so. We see that in many of the holidays, are pagan holidays that were repurposed for Judeo-Christianity. There's a trend to try to come up with some theology that is not mainstream, but I hate to use that as a reason to dismiss something, because what we teach is on the historical Jesus, and that there was no historical Jesus. They'll label it as being a mythicist. Really, it's being a historicist. It's seeing and then having knowledge of other world religions, mythologies, these archetypical patterns. And we could see that the Bible has been used as a psychological operation on us. One of the main reasons for this is to justify the divine right to rule, for others to have authority upon us. Well, in tearing apart our history with more knowledge that we're gaining through the information technological revelation, my friends, is that perhaps there are truths in the Bible, wisdom, but there are also many things in that Bible that we need to freaking burn, shred, namely the calls for genocide, racial superiority, and then a blotting out of even the memory of any other race, or unless they're in submission. And when small number of people have to take out a bigger number of people, your occupiers, then you do it through subversion. You do such tactics as trickery and deceit, as Jacob, who later became Israel, deceived his dying father to steal the birthright from the firstborn, because the chaos, the primordial chaos, darkness has to come first before the light. So they take themselves on to be the light unto the nations, and the rest of us are Esau, the dark side, the shadow of the tree of life, the tree of death, just husks, shells that are to be discarded. That some of us might have a little bit of a remnant of the light remaining on our shell that could be redeemed, rectified through Tikkun Olam, the mission of the person of the Judaic faith. And that's a Kabbalistic, esoteric. Perhaps there is some truth that in the creation of this world, when things split into duality, night and day, good and bad, that a product of that was the bad. And then we look to bring the good out of bad situations and rectifying that split within ourselves and our own in our consciousness. When we get traumatized, we split off into fragmented personalities. Schizophrenia is a result when your mind is divided and fighting with itself. It is weak. When we are divided and fighting with ourselves, we are weak. Look how much division of Christianity. How many churches in Christianity do we have? All the different sects in Muhammadism fighting against each other. Well, when we realize that the story of Esau and Jacob is not historical, total fictional, much like other stories about twins battling, Epic of Gilgamesh, much older. Remus and Romulus, the founders of Rome, very similar story. And then the Jesus story was built on top of that story that Moses was built on top of, that Joseph was built on top of. We could see how they came up with these stories, that these prophecies weren't being fulfilled. They're self-fulfilling prophecies, and they're using these scriptures as a script. They're waking up out of the PSYOP. So when all these evangelical Christians wholeheartedly, blindly support the state of Israel, Zionism, because they believe that the Jewish people have to return to the homeland so that Jesus will come floating down on the clouds. And in Islam, that same PSYOP is at work, that Isa will return, their Jesus in their Bible, in their Quran. We have this interesting fellow, Zerka, who brought Adam Green on to has debated him before, which is cool for giving Adam some spotlight. John Zerka. I think he's funny. I like him for the most part. Some things that he says and does, I do not agree with. But I like how he's... So we have Freemasons. We have him being Christian and becoming Islam. Him talking to Adam. So he's aware that Masonry, Christianity are all Siri was just listening to me. What? Not even, did I say anything that sounded like Siri? So, just because we break out of the Abraham matrix doesn't mean that we go to materialism and nihilism and empty, purposeless lives. Rather, when you break out of this matrix, it is freeing. We're taking authority over ourselves. We're not giving it up to some other person. This doesn't mean that there isn't room for intelligent design, consciousness, collectively, birthing, spirituality, mysticism, discipline, self-discipline, health, wealth, betterness, all these things don't disappear just because we realize that the Bible was put together to psychologically conquer, demoralize, theologically conquer our traditions, the Gentile, the heathen. Got Christians hating, casting out their own ancestors as pagans, as heathens. To hell, even. The mind. Does the devil, Satan, exist? If it exists in our minds, then it does. Does it exist in the collective conscious? It does. Who put it there? The Bible, really? There's elements of Zoroastrianism of Ahura Mazda, the good, Angra, something the name escapes me, as the evil, the bad, the chaos versus the order, the light versus the dark. Well, let us not cast other people off as the dark. What about the rabbis who teach that the Goyim, Esau, America, Edom needs to be destroyed in order for Israel to reign supreme on the seventh day as the crown of creation? We plea, we admonish, we challenge them to come up with better interpretations of these stories that don't call for genocide. Hello. Zionism at like the World Council or in its formation was condemned as racist by UN World Council. Let's see. Oh, the UN resolution on Zionism. The UN in a global campaign against Zionism as a form of racism. And it says it's distorting the truth and it's likely to incite racism. The inversion technique is so great. So here at the Wake movement, which is moving to stop the PSYOP, we are critical of everything, all the religions and political parties and governments and nations. And then when we're not allowed to be critical, that should be an alert on the radar. It might be hovering over the freaking target. And if you look, I look back on videos I've done 5 years ago predicting this very stuff because they're going by the script of the Bible. And they got half of America freaking evangelical Christians doing whatever they want. And they got all of us sending our tax money over there to support freaking genocide. And then they have us taking up pitting Muslims against Christians, the Arab world against America, and who sits behind the throne. They want Ishmael, the Arabs, Muslims, to wipe out Esau, and vice versa. Esau to wipe out Ishmael. So then who stands at the end? Yaakov. And to these beautiful, I know many, and I'm friends with many Jewish people. Some secular, some religious, some half-breds. And I challenge them to come up, to challenge the rabbis to come up with a better worldview. If it doesn't happen in the religious world, it happens in the political movements such as Zionism, which is less religious, but you'll still find many religious elements, such as the word Zion, but it's secular, and so that it's more racist supremacy. So Liam T. Jarrett, I'm an activist. I am a freaking superstar. Here to stop the PSYOP, exposing the Abrahamic Judaic PSYOPs of Christianity, Islam, Masonry, and more. Teaching symbolism, reclaiming it, reviving the traditions of our ancestors that don't call for our own blotting outness or annihilation. Let us not take on a religion that calls for our own annihilation through some Armageddon cataclysmic event. Can we do that? That'd be great. That'd be huge. That would be huge. I can't do Donald Trump. I don't do impersonations, which I'm not mad about. StopThePsyop.org. I secured that website name. I don't like doing things in a negative, like stop or anti this. And I'd rather be more pros, which is what the Aquarian TV is. That's one of the pro moves. Yeah, so the Aquarian TV Wake movement. I'm phasing out of Wake movement because my symbol is just too close to Masonry and the Star David, which is actually, this is actually a symbol. It's a sigil of Saturn. It's a sex symbol. It's fire and water together, air and earth. But it's It's just a little bit. I don't want to get associated with any of those. What I'm actually doing is exposing them. Hopefully this doesn't get me killed. What it has done is got me shadow banned to shit. Which is why I have to come up with these new names and new things. In the hopes that I won't get shadow banned to shitville. My videos don't get played. Play my videos. We'll find out that astrology is a main theme that's synchronistic through all the world religions. Here's one of my favorite rabbis. We have a lot to learn from all the world religions. And here he is exposing the Scorpio's secrets. They've been using the stars and astrology to manipulate us. But we're discovering this esoteric, this hidden secret knowledge to use it for ourselves. We need to reform religion, pretty much. And I'm not that hard on Hinduism, the Eastern religions, because they're the closest to the Proto-Indo-European Aryan original one. If we do the root of many, perennialism, this old wisdom tradition that has carried through the years, and which is mainly alchemy, which is like just working with your own energy. Come and feel my energy. Why did I feel like talking about Zorka today? Oh, because he commented on something. Somebody who follows him commented his astrological chart in the Vedic system, which is Eastern, which everything comes from the East, I think. The Caucasus Mountains, Caucasian, white Aryans. And there is a movement to wipe out the Aryan race. That has vilified the white Eastern European, Edom, Esau. Yeah, turned everybody against them. The target is on the head of the white race. Obviously, if anybody's hip to any of this, they'll know that. And then some on the left will be good. You fell for the PSYOP. You're hating your own self, many people. Sheesh. The Aryan Proto-Indo-Europeans, the root language of the majority of the world, invented what? The freaking domestication of animals, the cultivation of agriculture, the freaking wheel. We're the bad guys. In history, are there times where white people have done things that we're not proud of? Sure. As in all, there's this rich African king who I see people glorifying. Musa is widely considered the most wealthiest man in history. Musa the First, Mansa Musa. How did he get all his freaking wealth? Through slavery. And you know, the Western man is getting scapegoated for freaking what is going on in the Middle East and Israel. Getting blamed for it's because of British imperial colonialism. Britain was run by these Zionists before freaking America. They just moved on to the next host, and they've used us to fight all their wars. And they give us the false information about weapons of mass destruction, lies through propaganda. Who's got the biggest prominence in our media? Is it the Arabs? Is it dual Chinese citizenship that makes up a third of Biden's cabinet? And who Trump did the most for? The flag is upside down because our world and our country, America, is kind of a microcosm. I know that's a little bit selfish to think, but America is the superpower, the empire. Do we need to be an empire? No. How did the Roman Empire fall? It spread itself out doing stupid stuff, and it got theologically conquered with Christianity. Shortly after Christianity became the world recognized religion by the government, it fell. We could look to Stoicism, hermeneutics, the Hermetic traditions, Platonism, Irish folklore, Germanic traditions, and we resurrect those. We come up with alternative ways to express our religiosity. I'm doing that through the Aquarian, through syncretism. And we take the world's religions and we transmutate them with the light of freaking knowledge, with the fire of our willpower. If we could get together and organize, then that'll have more power. And it'll manifest into reality with a greater amount of force. But if we're using our force sorry, I just got distracted. If we're using our force for football fanaticism, we're getting screwed. Even very much our sexual energy, when we're using that as when we're addicted to pornography and whatnot, that is draining our freaking energy. So let's control it. Really through virtue. Do we need the Bible to teach us ethics, morality, virtue? We come to that in spite of the Bible. Our great architecture and social, the good stuff, the art, came about despite the Bible and its ban on making any graven image, except if it's a graven image to our God, of our people, and then rile them up to go and destroy their own culture and heritage and beauty and art. You got PSYOP, my friends, and it takes a little bit of us taking in of the humility pill. It's humbling. It can be earth-shattering. But that's a breakthrough. It's a breakdown for a breakthrough. I'm glad you're here with me. The flag upside down is a symbol of our country in distress. It's been taken over completely by a foreign interest, whose interest is actually our own destruction, demoralization. Perhaps our country was even created for such purposes after it sucked up Britain. It used the British to get their state. And then when they were done with them, they killed them through the Camp David hotel bombings, used them as a false flag operation to try to bring a war about, the Lavon affair. The same thing, to get us to go to fight Egypt for them. The Liberty ship vessel, information gathering Navy ship that was bombed by Israeli airplanes, and they tried to blame them on Egypt. Remember the Liberty. And it goes on. What is our solution? First, to shine a light on things, to recognize it, which is why stop the PSYOP. It's a call to action, at least, even though it's in the negative. But does it offer a vision for the future? Yeah, imagine a future where people have woken up out of the psychological operations to reality. Utopic. And they criticize our visions of a peaceful world as a utopian dream, as if it's something foolish, while holding on to their own utopian dream, which is to be served like every day is this Shabbat. Shabbos, a bunch of Shabbos goys. They are called to put the nations under your foot, and you shall suckle from their cows. They shall work the field while you study the Torah and the tent. They do the legwork. They fight the battles. They are the sword. And then they'll die by their own swords eventually. So that the light might shine from holy Mount Zion. I dream of a world where all the world religions realize the allegorical, metaphoricalness, ahistoricalness of the psychological operations that are these religious texts, and then come together on the common threads of wellness, individually, socially, and then we all come together. Brown, black, white, yellow man, red man, purple man. Holding hands, dancing on Mount Ephron, named after Zac Efron, popular celebrity of the late 20s. Mount Hebron, Mount whatever. And we come together on our shared human experience, shaking off the shackles of psychological bondage. Let it be done. So mote it be.